to the penultimate round of the 2019 Autodrome here in Russia. We're looking for a fantastic race here today, folks. For those of you that do not know, of course, the championship was wrapped up last week in Monza as Bolt TBD secured the championship with just two. We have today's 2 rounds and then next weekend's final round at Yas Marina. So, just going through the standings real quick as the lobby is loading up. Of course, Bolt TBD wins the race with 379 championship points ahead of Chaza at 263. Woody Racing here will have to fight out Danny Abinlaha actually for third, so that might be still up for grabs here. Through the qualifying lap. He's actually pretty high up, but going through the qualifying laps here, we're looking through to see where everyone's at as I go through as well. Try to get the telemetries up. And here is our champion here, the Bolt TBD in the Russian time. Just going through now through the couple left-handers here at Sochi Autodrome. Doing really nicely. Of course, they were having some trouble with the practice time. It looks like we could be having some corner cut central with the penalties here on this track, as this game seems to have some issues as this track, especially with the track limits, and they were having struggle. And it looks like Skull TBD will be one of those. He might have had an invalidated time. Very clean from Bolt TBD, and that's why he has been showing so much pace and so much skill through these cars. He's one of the few that can actually drive these cars, these Formula 2 cars. Says it suits him very well here. Of course, the drivers here not participating. Of course, Val himself is unable to make it today, today's race today, and so that means Dougie Afro will be the only person for the ART group to be able to score points. And asked him earlier today if that means as Bolt TBD will set a 146.4 with Chiller with a 146.6. So very, very close right here, as a lot of them were disqualified from that session. So that was a lot of, I was thinking, so that was very unfortunate for those guys here. Look at that, Finaldo, who is actually Hefford. He changed his PSN name. Testameister with the disqualification. Murcielago and Skull TBD. So 4 drivers got disqualified for track extending. So there you go. As that shows you the difficulty that these guys were talking about earlier today with the track limits. So the top 3 will be Bolt TBD, Chilla Killer, and of course King No Skill with a great qualifying lap for him. He's kind of struggled in the qualifying this season. Comes out 3rd with Danny Abinlaha, Laza the Greek, and Dougie Afroman in 6th. Chaz at 7th with the Russian time, so not a good qualifying for him. He's normally been up there with his teammate Bolt TBD, as well as Jay Hobson. So, as we're getting ready to form up on the grid here, once again, this is the penultimate round. Next weekend will be it, and then after this, we will be moving on to Project Cars 2. For, I believe, the LMP series will be on Saturdays following the Formula 2 Championship after next weekend. So with that being said, folks, that should be for a real treat for those of you that are interested in Le Mans prototypes. So that'll be very fun to watch. I myself will be participating in that. Pulling up the last few standings here. Just some championship battles here since the actual Drivers' Championship got wrapped up today. The following battles so far, I think the closest one that we could possibly see, not to mention, depending on how Danny Abinlaha does here, as I believe Woody Racing is unable to attend today. I didn't look and see. No, Woody Racing is not here today as well. As Chillicurl is left with a disconnection, he will be able to rejoin, but his AI will be taking his formation lap today. But with Woody Racing not able to attend here, this could be very potential Danny Abinlaha fate, actually, as he could be able to gain ground to get 3rd into the final standings. And just looking through as well, Murcielago and Jay Hobson are very close together, as well as Laza the Greek. But I do not believe Laza the Greek is here today also. Actually, there he is. He's in 5th. So those are the final few battles that actually could end up be the ones to watch here. But the one most importantly is the Danny Abinlaha and Woody Racing, with Woody Racing not able to attend today, as well as Val himself. So quite a few people unable to attend today. So this could be very much good points, especially for Dougie Afroman. You know, I spoke to him today with Val not being able to attend. how he could be the only person for ART to score points, and he said it's just going to make him want to go faster and get those points. So he is very motivated to try to score points for ART. As we're coming through the formation lap, Bolt TBD, we're watching our champion, and behind him could be. This is a track with a very long straightaway, and the first turn isn't until later on, and so these guys are going to be using what slipstream they can from the start, so a very good start is critical on this track. And so once you get into the first corner here, and the way that it's shaped as well, and which is fitting, because if you guys remember, of course, the last weekend as well was the actual Formula 1 Russian Grand Prix. It got very hectic at the start, and so watching these guys go through the sim race as well, as everyone goes through and warms up their tires, as Bolt TBD is keeping everyone at bay, keeping everyone so that way he still has the warm tires, because you don't want to get too far out when you're the pole leading pace setter for these formation laps, because that means that your brakes and tires will not be up to temperature for the start, as Chilla Killer unfortunately having more connection issues, so that's very unfortunate for him. So on board going through the field here, Lives of the Greek, Dougie Afro Man. And this is going to be something to watch is here. We've all known Chaz's pace. Of course, he's second in the standings behind his teammate. He starts 7th on the grid, possibly 6th, I believe, because I think Chilla Killer qualified 2nd? Setsu's not showing up. So, could start out 6th, actually, depending on if Chilla Killer's AI. Line up on the grid here. Bolt TBD, King No Skill, Danny Benlahan, Laz of the Greek, all looking to try to get away cleanly. It's going to be interesting to see what Chaz can do from 6th or 7th, depending on where. As a matter of fact, I don't even see Chilla Killer's AI. So this could be very interesting. That could actually free up some spots, but that also could be the gap. As we're waiting for the lights here for the Russian Grand Prix for the Formula 2 Championship, the penultimate round for the Nemesis Online Racing League. And here we go. Everyone gets a clean start except for Skull TBD, and the Carlin got a slow start, but Bolt TBD checks out his normal, and that's going to be putting a size up Bolt TBD, but he knows better than to do that, especially on the championship. Everyone goes wide here. And oh, we got a spin. Who was that? Hits the wall. And that was Jay Hobson that we saw get spun around here, as well as JF. So not a very good start for those two. I wonder there was some initial contact between the two here. As who is that going off wide? And that's more, and that's Laz of the Greek getting into the wall. And oh, some contact right there from Testameister, and Testameister. I apologize for that. Apparently my internet has been not up to par today. As we're taking a look out for the first, as we're back on the stream. As they are side by side going underneath the bridge here. And Danny Binlaha goes for the switchback. It's going to make it stick. We got the left-hander. Very good driving from both of these guys here. But Bolt TBD is showing why he's not the one to be messed with when it comes to overtaking, as Lives of the Greek picks up a 3-second. Very sorry for that, guys. Apparently my internet has not been up to par today, and so that might be an issue, which hopefully that'll be the only time we disconnect from the stream. As these two guys, and oh, Danny Binlaha spun! He choked under pressure trying to overtake Bolt TBD and ends up spinning on the final corner on the first lap. So unfortunate for him. He drops all the way down to 10th. And that was very unfortunate for Danny Binlaha. Was trying to get past Bolt TBD but doesn't make it stick. It ends up he's going to be looking for some time penalties, and let's hope that doesn't come to bite him, to come back to haunt him actually. Going through the field, look at the amount of these cars still fighting it out right there, with Chazza among them, as he's moved up to 5th. As everyone starts to try to spread out, as we actually have just a few battles, and that's Dougie Afroman bringing up into 3rd place for ART. We talked about being the only person to score points for ART today, as Val cannot be able to attend today, but King No Skill says, no sir, I'm taking that 3rd position, and that's actually going to allow Chazza to come into 4th. And so Dougie goes from 3rd to 5th in less than a few corners here, but hopefully he can be able to make that up. As now Finaldo, aka Hefford, who has the PSN name change, looked to size up Dougie, but not able to have enough speed, as Danny Binlaha scores some penalty points for this one, so chuck that one up, another slam dunk. Like I said, we could be having a lot of that today, as these track extending penalties and the track limits today are going to be very, very strict. from the way that everyone's been talking about for the practice sessions. And of course, the 4 drivers that got disqualified for the qualifying session. So, very much bold TBD. JF just spun it into the wall. Once again, troubles for JF. And this is a race automatically he wants to forget. As more penalties come in, as Testameister picks up another one. So that's a lot of drivers that have picked up some penalties for this one. And I believe JF has no front wing, so he'll have to come into the pits for this one. As it looks like, yeah, he's got no right front end plate. And is he actually, yeah, here we go. He's going to pull into the pits just now. So very unfortunate luck right here. So we got a battle between Finaldo, Chaza, and Dougie. And who was that just went off wide? Oh, like a red car. Look, it might have been Dougie Afro. As Murcielago is going to try here, but Dougie is going to try to go for the switchback. He's going to get the run on Murcielago. They're side by side. And just a little bit of a corner cut from Dougie Afroman. And then he's going to allow Murcielago to take that, but he's also coming up from his Scottish compatriot, Skull TBD. But I believe he's going to wise up and just follow behind the Afro. So from Dougie to be third, from just a few corners out all the way down to 7th. You wonder if he's got some damage. Actually, yes, he does. He doesn't have, at least on our screen, he doesn't have a left front end plate, so that could be hindering his downforce and turning abilities. So that there might have been some content earlier that we may have missed, possibly when my broadcast interrupted. And unfortunately, I'm just going to turn this into a video and upload it for Val. So, with that being said, Dougie Afroman is going to pull into the pits with his front wing damage. So what could have been a fantastic day for Dougie Afroman from going up to third is unfortunately going to only pick up a few points for ART in the feature race. As we're taking a look now back through the field, Laza the Greek is going to make a move on King No Skill, but he picks up a slam dunk penalty for the track extending here. And of course, I wonder if King No Skill's been radioed that. As Laza the Greek actually goes wide, and that's going to allow King No Skill to possibly regain the ground. And here he comes, slipstream and all. Thought about going on the inside of Laza the Greek, but thinks twice. I've been possibly going to wait for the DRS zone, as he's within 1 second, as Danny Bitlaha picks up a penalty. As we're looking at King No Skill, looking to size up a move on Laza the Greek, coming up to the DRS zone. Now let's see if he can make the move here. He's going to use the slipstream that he can, and here we go down the straightaway. Laza the Greek could be coming in potential. Might actually be just ahead enough to where King No Skill cannot make a move, but he's going to gain quite enough of a gap on him. So that'll help him just a little bit. Maybe if he can nail his corners as well, he can be able to get him down the front straightaway. But putting Laza the Greek under pressure here. Fearless driving from both of these guys, as Laza the Greek does seem to be feeling the pressure. He's just made a few mistakes, and that's going to allow King No Skill to make a move, but no, Laza the Greek is going to go into the pits for his stop. So quite a few guys have already made it to the... Now, these could be for the actual pit stops instead of the ones that actually made the pit stops if they suffered damage through the opening laps. As I believe that was Skull TBD just going off a slight bit. Here comes Laza the Greek in for his pit stop right here. This could be very potential as King No Skill decided to stay out. So that's going to be putting Laza to make a very, very good lap. And hopefully maybe come out ahead of King No Skill. So we'll have to see. Speaking of King No Skill, let's see what his lap looks like. As he's actually going to come under pressure from Chaza. Where did he come from? Chaza comes in and is going to be battling out with King No Skill, and that's going to allow Finaldo to come into play here. As these guys, if you're Finaldo, you're just going to be like, you know, where are these guys going to do? What exactly moves are they going to make here as Finaldo? And that's also going to allow Murcielago to come into the mix. As King No Skill suffers down, and Fernando goes tremendously wide. And that's going to allow King No Skill to overtake him, and then he's going to be put under pressure now from Murcielago. As Fernando's going to duck to the inside, and actually is going to go extremely, and almost runs King No Skill off. But he concedes that position, and that's going to allow Murcielago to take it, as we got a yellow in Sector 1. And that's Jay Hobson into the wall again. Can't tell if he was facing around the right side or not, as we just joined. And now here's our leader, Bolt TBD, comes into the pits with a healthy 10-second lead over his teammate Chaza. As Chaza is just going down the front straightaway now. And this is interesting. I wonder if he got some damage that we didn't see. Bolt TBD actually with a wing change. And this isn't good because he did have a 10-second penalty, but or 10-second gap to Chaza. But I'm pretty sure that this could be advantage Chaza, because look at the amount of positions that Bolt's lost here with that front wing change. So he's gone from 1st to 6th, 5th or so, depending on where everyone else is. And Fernando and Demi Benlaha is actually in the pit, so he goes from 1st to 5th. So this could play out to advantage Chaza, as Bolt TBD apparently had to make a front wing change. I wonder where he had, I wonder if he had actually contact with Danny Benlaha that we saw. But I don't think that was the reason of Danny Benlaha spinning. I believe Danny Benlaha was behind Bolt TBD when that initial spin out happened. So already some spicy changes going through this Grand Prix already. As King Nose goes, we have Jay Hobson unfortunately retiring. He's had too many spins, too many offs, and he's going to call the feature race done. So unfortunately, not a good day for Jay Hobson, as he's going to end up being our first retirement and has left the session completely. So it just could be just an overall quit to the entire weekend for Jay Hobson. Cycling through the field right now, we're looking at Bolt TBD back after his pit stop. He's 19 seconds behind. I'm pretty sure that means, I guess, Skull TBD picks up another penalty. I'm sure that actually means that the car ahead, so he's about 18-19 seconds behind Skull TBD. Let's see if Chaza comes in for his pit stop, which he does, slightly locking the brakes up. So I'm curious to see where that front wing change for Bolt TBD, if he is end up going to still come out behind, or if actually Chaza is going to have a slow pit stop himself. So Chaza's into the pits, Bolt TBD. Let's see where these two end up is. And here comes Chaza out of the pits. Bolt TBD just now going through the final few corners. Oh, this could be very, very close, depending on where Chaza ends up coming out of the pits. And there goes Bolt. So luckily for Bolt TBD, he had a healthy enough gap because of the wing change to actually stay ahead of Chaza. So very lucky for him, a second gap. So he should maintain the lead, because I believe King No Skill, I don't think he's pitted just yet. Let's see if we can figure that out. Yeah, so the top three still have yet to pit. So that was actually pretty fortunate luck for Bolt TBD, that he had to make a front wing change and still remain ahead of Chaza. And then he's still going to be about 3 seconds ahead of Chaza for that. So as we're cycling now through the top runners here, King No Skill, Murcielago, and Skull TBD, your top three who have yet to pit. But as I cycle through the pit stops, that'll re-put Bolt TBD in first with Chaza behind him, about 3.5 seconds, and then Danny Benlaha behind him. So that will be your top three once these guys make their pit stops. It's a bit spread out now, as Murcielago is actually a little bit behind King No Skill. So this could be a battle brewing that we could see here later on through the race as they go through. As King No Skill still has yet to pit, stays out, as well as Murcielago. Does Skull TBD? No, he chooses to stay out as well. So they're going to try to make these tires last a little bit longer. As all three of these guys are running on 7-lap-old tires. And so that should give Bolt TBD a nice pace advantage against these guys, as they have yet to pit, and Bolt is on only 2-lap-old soft tires. As of course he sets a fast lap of a 1:48, it looked like. So he is setting on to be some pretty good pace. Cycling through the field once again. And Chaza right there, as you saw, picks up a penalty for that corner cut. And apparently he's been among the victims to get the warnings, and Daniel Benlahan gets another one. So this could be unfortunate for him if Bolt TBD makes a few mistakes, which he's very rare of doing, mind you. If Chaza were to catch up to him, that could all be for nothing as Chaza picks up a penalty. So now Bolt needs to stay clean as a whistle to try to avoid the penalties himself. As of course Chaza picked up a 3-second penalty for that corner cut that you just saw. Cycling through the field once again through the back burners as JF goes into the pits. Not a good day for him either, as he's been involved in multiple incidents, a few spin-offs, and I think he was involved in that one incident earlier that we saw at the beginning of the race. As he needs a front wing change as well. I wonder if that just could be an animation error from our broadcast. So it could have been possible that Bolt TBD did not have to make a front wing change, but unfortunately we won't know until after the race. But regardless of that fact, he's actually still ahead of Chaza regardless here, as King No Skill and Skull make their pit stops finally, and so that'll cycle through into Bolt TBD's favor, and we'll end up ahead of them as King No Skill comes in and is going to trail as Skull TBD goes into his stall, into his pit box, and Bolt TBD sets another 148, another fast lap for him. So he's a good 12 seconds behind Murcielago, as he's actually going to come up behind the back marker of JF. So hopefully JF will be able to be nice enough to let Bolt TBD through. And oh no! And there we have it. We talked about it. He's picked up a penalty, as he gets multiple warnings as well. So now he's got to hope that he can still maintain, as JF, he goes completely wide. I mean, I understand letting the lead car through that's behind you, but that's a very interesting area to let the faster car through. As Chaza looks to try to catch up to his teammate of Bolt TBD. So now both Russian time cars have penalties in this one, and Chaza about 5 seconds or so behind Bolt TBD. Bolt TBD needs to keep it clean and keep hitting his marks here if he wants to stay ahead and not make any more mistakes like that. Because he's already chucked up 3 seconds of penalties. One more penalty, and that's going to allow Chaza, regardless of where their gap is on the track, will be right up on Bolt TBD's gearbox, if not slightly ahead, as he's only about 5 seconds ahead of Chaza. So if Bolt TBD picks up another penalty here, it's victory Chaza. But of course Chaza needs to be careful himself and not to pick up another penalty, which I don't think either of these guys have picked up all but one penalty for each other. So that could be very interesting here. It's that turn 1 complex that keeps to be catching everyone off, as well as I believe the final corner of the circuit that keeps to be catching everyone off with these track extending penalties, corner cut penalties, multiple infractions for a lot of these guys, and that's what a lot of these guys were having trouble with through the practice sessions. As Murcielago comes in for his stop, and that's going to allow Bolt TBD to retake the lead on this, as Murcielago is going to choose the super soft tires. So you might see something to try to stay ahead of Daniel Benlaha. So this could be a fight worth watching here. Daniel Benlaha should overtake Murcielago, which he does so. And Chaza goes completely wide, lucky not to get another infraction off that. As that stop will put Murcielago behind Finaldo. With those super soft tire advantage, he should be able to maybe catch up to Finaldo very quickly. So I'll have to keep an eye on the gap to that. And so with these two guys both having penalties themselves for the Russian times, if you're wondering what it's like when you know you have a penalty, regardless of who, like both of these guys have penalties, to know that if you're ahead of somebody but you have the penalty, it makes you want to go faster. But you got to be smart and just keep hitting your marks, because otherwise, if you try to push the car past its limits, you're going to end up probably infracting more penalties as Skull TBD, of course, picks up another penalty himself. So a lot of these, a lot of the track limits catching off of these guys here. And unfortunately for Murcielago, because of that, he's going to end up with a penalty himself. And not good as well, because he's catching up to King No Skill. So that's not what he wanted to see, because I'm pretty sure he could have had something for King No Skill. Ronaldo looks just a little bit slick, a little bit tail happy ahead of these guys. He's on 4-lap-old soft tires, while these guys are on pretty much fresh supers. So this could be a battle worth watching right here, as Ronaldo comes under attack from 2 guys behind him. And that'll allow King No Skill to actually get the DRS. These guys, let's see, yeah, Murcielago should get the DRS advantage on King No Skill, but King No Skill should get the DRS open right now on Ronaldo. Let's watch this overtaking move. See you later, son. Going into the first corner, though, don't do anything, don't go wide. And Ronaldo's still going to put up a fight as he's right up on the gearbox of King No Skill. And Murcielago is watching these two, hoping these two collect each other in a crash and just breeze on by through those two, as Ronaldo goes extremely wide almost. Oh man, look how wide Ronaldo just went, and look how wide King No Skill went. As these guys are pushing the limits, they can feel each other. And there we go, Chazza just picked up another penalty, so advantage Bolt TBD. So that is not what Chazza wanted, but let's just hope that Bolt TBD doesn't pick up another penalty. And there we go, cycled it out. King No Skill and Murcielago get ahead of Ronaldo, as Ronaldo is on the different tires to these two. But you saw it on the race director that Chazza picked up another penalty. He's 7 seconds behind physically. But with that penalty, he will end up probably mathematically 13 or so seconds behind Bolt TBD. Let's hope he doesn't come under pressure from Danny Abinlaha now. And that could drop him down to 3rd. And he's 6 seconds, technically he would be 6 seconds or so ahead of Danny Abinlaha. So let's hope he doesn't pick up one more. And Danny Abinlaha picks up this pace, which, by the way, good recovery through these pit stops for Danny Abinlaha. Remember, he spun on lap 2, I believe. And he was directly behind Bolt TBD, so if he hadn't spun out, who knows where he could have ended up with. And especially, because I think he's picked up penalties himself, actually, so I have to remember that as well. But regardless, if he hadn't spun out, who knows where he could have been up on pace, as he goes by JF, a back marker, as JF kindly lets Danny Abinlaha through. So just a wild feature race here. Everyone seems to be spreading out and calming down now, but just a wild array of penalties for everyone here. As we talked about it, that just seems to be the topic for today's race, because of the fact that everyone seems to be collecting penalties left and right. So it's a very, very wild. So we're watching our champion, of course, who secured the championship last weekend at Monza, Bolt TBD, your 2019 Formula 2 champion for Nemesis Online Racing. As King No Skill picks up a penalty, and so that could play advantage for Murcielago, which I haven't been paying attention for the little bit, but I haven't seen, what names I have seen would be Murcielago to pick up any penalties. So that could play advantage for Murcielago himself, with King No Skill picking up a penalty. It just seems to be the penalty Grand Prix for this one. As actually, let's see. And look at that, because of King No Skill being on the super softs, he is caught up directly behind Danny Abinlaha, but both of these guys had penalties. Also, this could be interesting here. Murcielago, I don't think, has any penalties. We do know Denny has one, and we just seen King No Skill get one. Oh man, this could be interesting. Murcielago, having kept his nose clean throughout the race, he could end up in a podium spot. As we start lap 13 to 14, 2 laps to go for everyone here. This could be very good luck and good fortune for Murcielago, with those two actually going side by side. Oh, King No Skill goes out wide, and that's going to allow Danny to retake 3rd position. Murcielago creeping up behind both of these guys. Just very, very slowly. Danny Abinlaha trying to fend off a hard-charging King No Skill on 7-lap-old tires that Danny Abinlaha is on, which, mind you, those are 7-lap-old softs. And while King No Skill and Murcielago are on the supers. And so those two have the advantage over Danny Ibn Laha. But Danny's doing a pretty good job to keep both of these guys behind him, especially with King No Skill, who just almost collected Danny Ibn Laha, just hard charging. He wants that position, as Testameister decides to call it quits. And well, if he didn't have a penalty, he has one now, as Murcielago picks up a 3-second penalty. But let's see if that offsets. I'm curious if that offsets compared to King No Skill and Danny Ibn Laha, who are going side by side in the right-hander. King No Skill goes out wide. And they collected just a little bit. That was very tense. They almost ended up in a crash, and here comes Murcielago. Is going to take 4th position. Is just getting a little bit tail happy. He's pushing very hard, but here comes King No Skill right back beside. Is going to overtake. But Murcielago gets a hard charge, but they got another right-hander advantage. King No Skill technically, and there he goes. Who's got DRS, I wonder? It's going to be Murcielago getting the DRS. So he should be able to retake the position with the DRS helping a little bit of slipstream. Side by side, both of these guys are going to go into turn 1. Let's see who makes the mistake here. Try to keep it nice and tidy through there. That's been catching everyone off with the penalties as we're on the final lap. As King No Skill is going to fall behind just a little bit to Murcielago. As he actually goes off the wall and almost get the wall. That was very close for King No Skill. That could have been disastrous for King No Skill, having almost collected the wall. And he actually lost a little bit of time to Murcielago. And right now, Danny Ibn Laha is watching that in his rearview mirrors and seeing that, and is just going to try to gain whatever gap he can over Murcielago with all these penalties being in play. As we're looking back up to Bolt TBD, who is 20 seconds ahead of Chaza. And of course, both of those guys have penalties for this one. But I think Bolt TBD will have just enough of a gap between with the penalties to stay ahead of his teammate Chaza. As he's going to round the final few corners past the pit entrance. Around the last corner, Bolt TBD should secure the feature race for this round number 1 of the Russian Grand Prix for the Formula 2 Championship. So Bolt TBD winning the feature race here. Everyone else. Oh, King No Skill just hit the wall. That is King No Skill into the wall. And he's got some front wing damage. So unfortunate for him. As he was fighting with all those penalties that everyone seemed to have. So I cannot wait to see how everything comes into play. And look at that, Murcielago. I wonder if Murcielago hit him off. Murcielago, being the team sport that he is, decides to give King No Skill that position back. So very, very well played for Murcielago. I'm glad we caught that. So let's see where everything shifts off with all of these penalty points. As we see the drivers coming up to the podium, as Bolt TBD secures another win for this season. And Chiller Killer has finally rejoined, so very unfortunate that he missed out on the feature race. So, everyone chopped up penalties today. So here we go, Bolt TBD and Chaza, of course, with their penalties are the first 2. And Finaldo jumps all the way up into 3rd with, after all of that, who started 10th. So he only picked up 3 seconds worth of penalties. Danny Ibn Laha picked up 12 seconds of penalties. King No Skill picked up, we're going to cycle through 6 seconds, as well as Murcielago. So there you go. I'm pretty sure, I think Murcielago maybe hit off King No Skill, and that's why we saw King No Skill ended up into the wall. The only person not to pick up penalties, look at that. Dougie Afroman, who unfortunately, who had wing damage, I think, could have been up there had all these guys had penalty, if he had not have had some wing damage. So very unfortunate luck for Dougie to be down there and not have penalties. That is very interesting. That is that is crazy. But nonetheless, that is a feature race. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen. We have got a wet sprint race coming up to you next for the sprint race of the Russian Grand Prix for the Nemesis Online Racing League Formula 2 Championship. The penultimate round. So these guys are going to have some fun in the rain. So this could be very interesting to watch, as everyone's going to be putting on the wet tires. Once again, guys, I do apologize for the earlier interruptions, which is why I am actually now recording this. Apparently my internet has been acting up today, so I do apologize for the few connection issues that I've been having. So here we go. Now remember, in Formula 2 for the sprint race, the top 8 are the ones to get swapped around. So Skull TBD will be leading everyone ahead of Dougie Afroman, Murcielago, King No Skill, Danny Benlaha, Finaldo, Chaza, and with Bolt TBD winning the feature race, will start 8th. 9th through 13th will be starting the same way that they finished. And so everyone is going to be trying to be careful on this very slippery surface. Now, I will tell you this here, the one that does not want to see the rain, but has done pretty good in the rain, though. He doesn't like it, but he's shown pretty good pace, and that is, of course, Bolt TBD. He doesn't like the way the rain works on this game. It doesn't like the way these cars seem to handle, but he's shown tremendous pace in the rain so far, whenever we've had rain races through the season. But, of course, Chaza is very good in the rain as well, and he is ahead of Bolt TBD coming into the sprint race. We're looking Skull TBD, not a stranger to starting first within these sprint races. But of course, if he gets a terrible jump like he did in the feature race, that could be causing problems for the guys behind him. He didn't really get a good start in the feature race. Let's hope he can learn from that and try to get a good start, even with this wet weather playing impact for the rain for the start in this one. This could be a very interesting start here, because these cars don't have a lot of grip initially in dry conditions, because you have to shift up just a little bit before it gets to certain revs. Otherwise, these cars just do not want to get off the line, and actually they will spin out on you if you're not careful, even in dry conditions under the starts. So I am ready to see what these guys can do off the start here in a very wet sprint race here for the Russian Grand Prix. And this will also play a factor too. We saw how many drivers ended up with penalty points. The only driver that did not get penalties was Dougie Afroman, who starts second. If he can keep his nose clean, and everyone else seems to be, like, if everyone else makes the same mistakes that they did and he keeps his nose clean, he could be looking for some very good points here in the sprint race. I'm very gutted that he was the only one to not get penalty points, but ended up getting into a little bit of trouble, it seemed. Early on into the feature race, because he was up to 3rd and then dropped down to 7th, I believe, before he stopped because of front wing damage. So with that being said, here we are lining up for the sprint race in the wet conditions. So let's see who spins around, but who gets the rocket start. As here we go, 5 red lights right here, right now. The sprint race is underway. And let's see who gets a clean start. Actually, Skull TBD gets a very decent start, and Dougie's going to slip right behind him. But that's going to hold up Murcielago as the 2 Scottish compatriots go 2 by 2, as Danny Benlaha is going to try to squeeze into the middle. He's going to make it 3 wide. That's not a very good idea in the wet. Everyone tried to brake early as they can here in the wet conditions, and everyone seems to be going wide, and that looks to be Bolt off into the runoff area. Doesn't get a penalty though, so he's very lucky, but he got shoved off wide. But I wonder if he was trying to avoid everything going off in front of him, so I can't exactly blame him. But that was very interesting for Danny Benlaha, and he scores, and he apparently made an illegal overtake, as we got a spinner somewhere. I believe that is Testameister and JF, I think, were in some contact. as JF seems to be going very slowly, as well as Testameister. So those two getting into more trouble. Cycling back through the field, and who is that? That's Murcielago off into the wall almost. And that allowed Danny Billahan to overtake him as well, but he had to, and oh, there goes some contact. Murcielago is spun around in front of everyone. And there was some contact between him and I believe either Danny Billahan or Chaza. I couldn't tell who that was in front of him. But he spun off into the sunset, and Bolt TBD is going to overtake Chiller Killer to take fourth. And so both Russian time cars charging up through behind the field. As Dougie Afroman leads everyone into the sprint race right now. And so far seems to be doing a good job, although he's got Danny Binlaha, who seems to be very well in the red. We got another yellow somewhere. Trying to see who that is. Up, it's Finaldo. Going up very slow, and King No Skills into the wall. Lots of the Greek as well was going off slow. And Skull TBD. So a lot of shenanigans going on in the rear field. Toward the tail end. As Testameister having some problems, as Danny Binlaha overtakes Dougie Afroman to take the lead into the sprint race. So very chaotic first lap in the wet weather for the sprint race here with Danny Binlaha trying to force it 3 wide, trying to do Scotsman. And it does work, but he does have a penalty, and I believe he's either got a penalty for corner cutting or track extending or making an illegal overtake, as Chaza is going to come in on the inside of Dougie Afroman and trying to look into second place. So already Danny Billahan being slapped with a penalty, as well as Finaldo. But here we go again with the penalties here. It's Dougie on the gearbox of Chaza, but of course Chaza is not one that's easy to overtake. He will defend like mad for his positions, and he's got the pace to back it up. So now he will be going under the attack for Danny Billahan now. But what a chaotic start. And of course we saw Bolt TBD go off wide himself, trying to avoid all the chaos, as Chaza having a little bit of problems in the wet. That's a very rare sight. Normally Chaza is really good in the wet, as he's having a little bit of issue in front of Dougie Afroman, and that's holding Dougie up. And that's going to allow Bolt TBD to catch up to Dougie Afroman. And of course Chiller Killer behind him. Watching all this unfold here as everyone seems to be spreading out just a little bit, except for these two. This is about the closest gap on the circuit. As Chiller Killer is going to try on the outside of Bolt TBD, that's not going to do it, especially on the left-handed corner. And who's that just went off? Dougie Afroman just went off, and it looked like Chiller Killer might have had a little bit of contact with Bolt TBD. As we got a yellow flag, sector 3. I don't know who that was. Torpedoing into the wall. As we just saw, as we were looking, Murcielago recovering, JF just missed his braking point and literally torpedoed into the wall. He's lucky that he's still able to drive that thing. So everyone struggling with the grip, missing their braking points, as Chaza will set a fast lap of a 2:05. So as you can see the speed difference, Bolt TBD was setting 147s, 148s, and everyone's doing good just to break in to the 159s. As Chaza is looking to chase down Danny Binlahan with Bolt TBD right behind him. Looking to follow along with him. He's got another yellow sector 3, and that's JF into the wall again. So not a very good lap for JF. We saw him torpedo into the wall, and then we saw him spin on the last corner. As Testameister comes into the pit with King No Skill. And who was that loaded? Was that Bolt TBD that went off wide? There was a car that went off wide, but nonetheless, Chaza slowly approaching the gearbox of Danny Binlaha. And he could make the move right here, as Dougie Afroman picks up a penalty. So his first penalty actually of the entire weekend. So he doesn't pick up any in the feature race, but does pick up an unfortunate penalty in the sprint race. And as we're looking now, these top 4 in the same shot of Danny Binlaha, Chaza, Bolt, and Chiller Killer. All your top 4. All in the same shot. About 5 seconds between each other. I mean, Dougie's about 4 seconds behind Chillers. We got a car that's off somewhere, and it's JF again, as he is just having all sorts of problems in this wet weather. As Murcielago looks to take advantage of a mistake by Laza the Greek, but it looks like Murcielago is having a little bit of an issue himself, and that's going to recover Laza. So, very fortunate for Laza, for Murcielago to make a mistake himself, coming slow out of that corner. There just seems to be no grip, as Bolt will set a 2-minute 4 to take over the fastest lap. And they're slowly gaining a gap on Chiller Killer, as Bolt TBD will take his teammate and try to follow him around. And in chasing down Danny Benlaha. And I'm pretty sure with Chaza catching Danny, it's gonna, with Danny not being as fast as these two, is gonna slow Chaza down, and that's gonna allow Bolt to catch up to his teammate. And if I was Bolt, I would just watch these two, because Danny seems to be slower compared to these two. As I said, I would just watch to see if those two would make contact with each other and just allow an easy breezy overtake on 2 cars. And because of Danny's pace, that's allowed Chiller to catch right back up to these 3. And I bet you Chaza is thinking to himself, Danny, get out of the way or drive faster, because I am being caught up by my teammate and Chiller. So I'm pretty sure Chaza very frustrated with Danny Benlahan right now, because he's all over the gearbox of Danny Benlahan, but just nowhere to go. He just doesn't know. And of course, with the rain, there is no DRS. And so you have to rely on pure skill and out-braking and out-maneuvering your opponents. As there goes Chiller Killer, way off into the run-up area. And look at this, Bolt TBD trying to do, look at this, gents, ladies and gentlemen, almost 3 wide. And, ooh, geez. That is not good, but the person that comes up out of that one better than everyone is Chaza, with Bolt right behind him. That was a hectic situation from these 3 guys. And I bet you Chiller, recovering from his incident right there, saw that and is like, what in the world is going on up there? But nonetheless, Chaza takes the lead of the sprint race here in Sochi. But not for long, as Bolt is going to use the slipstream on his teammate, the 2 Russian time cars who have dominated all season long, winning all but 1 or 2 races, as Bolt TBD is going to make a maneuver on the outside and does it swiftly around his teammate, and that is why he is your champion, and he takes the lead with a very nice maneuver. Chaza right back, and he's saying that was a nice maneuver, but I am going to retake this one. But apparently not, as he's going to line back up behind his teammate. What a move from Bolt TBD into the first corner in the wet conditions, around the outside, mind you. And that just shows you the skill that he has shown all season long. And that is why, of course, he is your champion for this one. As the 2 Russian time cars looking to build a gap, as Chiller Killer picks up a penalty, so he will fall behind. And hopefully he doesn't come under pressure from Dougie Afro, but don't forget Dougie Afro, man, has a penalty himself. The first one of the weekend as well, as he did not pick up a penalty in the feature race. So, as we catch our breath here, let's go through the field. As we're on lap 5 of 11 of the sprint race, Bolt TBD made a masterful move on his teammate Chaza to take the lead. And that'll put, of course, Chaza in second. Danny Benlahan was fighting out these guys. He's coming under pressure from Chiller Killer, but of course, Chiller Killer has a penalty here. So he will be third. Those 2 are 3rd and 4th. As Danny Benlahan is actually slow, and that's going to allow Chiller to actually catch right back up to him. Dougie Afroman in 5th place, Finaldo 6th, Laza the Greek 7th, Murcielago in 8th, and JF 9th, and King No Skill in 10th. Rounding up your final points positions. And Skull TBD actually chasing him down to try to gain that last point. So we got a yellow in Sector 3. Who is this? Looking for somebody going off slow. That might have been Murcielago. He looked like he was going very slow. Skull TBD sets a fast lap of a 2-minute 4. And it's hard to tell, but I believe the rain has come to a stop, and with about 5 laps to go, I wonder if this could be enough time for the track to slowly dry out. And so that could play into an advantage here. Because we got another yellow. I'm going to take a guess that might have been JF going off again. As JF seems to be the main person that has been going off with so many problems. And yes, the rain has stopped, as you can tell on the T-cams of these guys. As Laza enters into the pits. Let's see if he makes a gamble to go on the softs. No, he's going to stay on the wet. So I don't think it's time to go on to the dry tires. Now, just a little heads up for everyone that doesn't know this. Formula 2 cars do not have intermediates. It's either softs or super softs, or the full wets. And so that plays into a factor that if it starts drying up, you're going to be wearing off the treads on the wet tires, as we see Chaza trying to go over on the inside of his teammate, but not with a right-handed corner. And so he will fall back behind his teammate once again. But yeah, these guys do not have the Formula 2 cars do not have intermediates. And so once this track starts to dry up, with this rain finally coming to a stop, I'm wondering what the wear and the tire heat is going to be on these cars, especially with, you know, the full wets can only take so much, and you're going to be wanting to cool these tires down because you do not want to overheat wet tires. They just have no grip, and you would just burn off the treads. And I think it's starting to affect these guys as well. Let's take a look and see what the lap times, what the lap lives are. I mean, we're on lap 6 and these guys have yet to pit. So about 6 laps going on into 7. About 5-6 laps on these guys. But these two are actually pulling a gap on Danny Billaha and Chiller. So these guys are just doing follow the leader tactics. So I'm wondering if we could see some Mercedes action between these two. Let's see if who can out strategize the other. And it looks like we have our first goer of the dry tires. Chiller Killer and Danny Abinlaha go on to the dry tires. Danny Abinlaha elects to choose the soft tires while Chiller goes on to the supers. Now let's watch these two lap times and see if that triggers a reaction of the top 4, especially Bolt and Chaza. As once again, these two are just like Chaza is all over the gearbox of Bolt. Is he going to size up on the inside? Got a yellow in sector 3 somewhere. And Danny just scored a penalty. Chaza looking to make a move, possibly. I wonder who will choose to elect first, because with these two, of course, being on the same team, they have the same pit box. So one of these guys will have to stay longer at least. Because I don't think these two want to double stack, because that'll just hurt both of them. But there is a lot of respect between these two guys, and they have shown it. So I don't think they would want to do that to each other, as Bolt just goes up just a little bit wide going into the corner. And just a little bit of tail happiness from Bolt. That's going to allow Chaza to overtake him going into this left-hander. These two side by side, not giving an inch. Who will come back out on top? It will be Bolt TBD, but Chaza coming back on the outside and will actually take the lead into the sprint race of lap 7 going into 8. These two staying out one more lap at least. Which both of these guys, mind you, have gained 6 positions for each other. And Chiller Killer has gained 8, with Skull TBD, who started first, has lost 8 positions, as you can tell on the telemetry data on the left. As now these two are side by side going down the front straightaway. Well, one of these guys get caught up for the track limits that's been causing everyone problems today. Both of them got through cleanly, so very nicely done. Don't have to worry about a penalty so far for these two. As right now, this is the closest battle that we have onto the track right now. Second closest being Laza the Greek and Danny Benlaha, about 1 second between the two. And actually, Laza just overtook Danny. I think Danny, that's a huge monumental gap that Laza managed to pull on Danny Benlaha. As once again, these two are actually side by side. As we come back to these two, these guys, this is practically Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg at Bahrain 2014 all over again. These guys are just not letting up between each other, but at least they're showing each other enough respect as teammates Not to try to ruin each other's races, but this is offering some fantastic racing. Very good driving from both of the Russian time cars. But as you can tell, the track is pretty much dry as a bone at this point, so one of these guys is going to have to duck first. Who will go onto the dry tires first? Who's going to elect to pit? Will Bolt pit first because he's leading, or will Chaza try to undercut his teammate? I wonder what will happen. That will be an interesting tactic for one of these guys to try to out-strategize the other, because that's what it's going to come down to, I think, is who pits first, who goes onto the dries first, and who's going to be forced to stay out. I just don't see these two double stacking. That just will not work, because that will allow Dougie, who's coming to third, but does have penalty. These two do not pit. Could these guys try to go to the end? Just got a yellow flag, sector 1 somewhere. And Murcielago has had an off. Oh man, I wonder if the track is just still a little bit too damp. Yeah, I just see a little bit of spray coming out the front end of Murcielago's tires. There's a little bit of spray left, so the track's not completely dry. Is that understeer though? I can't tell. It doesn't look like he's got front wing damage, but it looks like, yeah, I don't think the track might have been ready for the dry, so that might be the indication of why these two have yet to pit. Yeah, you can tell the spray that's coming off behind both. So these two could be going to the end, as it may not just be enough to, time for this track to completely dry out for the dry tires, as Murcielago goes off wide to let these two go. Doesn't want to be the one to ruin the fun. Good boy, Murcielago. As, of course, we're on board with Chaza looking behind his teammate, Bolt TBD. And so with these two guys pretty much, I think, going to the end, I wonder who will, if Bolt will try to hold off, maybe let Chaza through for a win? Doubtful. He wants 4 more wins. He's already claimed 1 today for the feature race. He's already said, and oh no! He's gone off! Oh no, that's not the mistake you wanted to do with 3 laps to go, and I bet you I can already hear Bolt screaming into the Discord chat of pure frustration. But he is catching back on Chaza, so no, the hope is not lost. But you can hear that he is just gassing the throttle right now. He wants that position back, and he's going to try to dive bomb it. No! He's picked up a penalty. Slam dunk race over unless Chaza gets a penalty himself. Oh, yeah, you can tell he was furious that he went off, tried to make a maneuver, and ended up costing him with a 3-second time penalty. So unless Chaza gets one, I believe this sprint race will go to Chaza. And so unfortunate for Bolt to make a mistake and then try to regain the position back only to get a penalty. And you can tell these guys are just losing grip as these two are pushing the limits not only of their tires but each other, as there was almost contact between the two. But you could just hear the engine revving on Bolt TBD. He is trying to gain whatever traction he can out of the rear of those tires. But there's not a lot to offer. As you can tell, Bolt seems to be the faster driver between the two, and he wants that position back. So we got a yellow sector 2 somewhere. And that is, of course, Daniel Binlahan makes another mistake. Yeah, he's one of the ones that went on to the dry tires. So unfortunately, I just don't think the track was dry enough for those tires as Bolt TBD regains the position, but you got to gain 3 seconds, mate. I don't think you have enough time and the pace to be able to gain 3 seconds to be able to maintain the sweep. But nonetheless, he does gain the position back on Chaza. Chaza looked to the inside, but falls directly back behind. Bolt taking it easy through there because that's where he had his off. These two side by side once again. For like, what, the 6th time between these two? Side by side? Tremendous racing from both the Russian time cars as they are going into the final lap of the sprint race. Neither one of them giving an inch. What an amazing final lap that we can be able to witness here between these two. Which is fitting considering the team being Russian time and we're in Russia. So these two giving the home fans, the home virtual fans, a show to remember, and giving you guys a show to remember as well. Just neither one of them will give an inch regardless. Bolt TBD fighting off what could be potentially his race to lose, as he's got 3-second penalties worth over Chaza, and so advantage Chaza for the moment. And I'm not for sure if Chaza's picked up any penalties himself. And even so, Bolt TBD is still going to try to battle him regardless, as he does not give up very quickly, as they got a lap car, a back marker behind, in front of them, but nonetheless, I believe that's Danny Minlaha. Bolt TBD decides to stay behind Chaza for the moment. Will he try to size up another overtaking spot? Gets a little bit tail happy, really pushing the limits of that car. As Dougie picks up another penalty. And that could actually, that might eliminate Dougie's podium spot. Well, maybe, I don't know, actually. I don't think so. Never mind that. I do apologize for that. That's a lie. I believe Finaldo's 15 seconds behind Dougie Afroman. But these two still in the closing laps. Chaza and Bolt TBD had a tremendous battle all sprint race long. But I do believe Chaza, of course, he is physically ahead, so straight up, regardless of Bolt's penalty, Russian Times pretty much sweeps the weekend, but with both of their drivers, as Bolt finishes first in the feature race, and Chaza, Chaza had a penalty! He had a penalty! Ooh, yeah, he had, I think he had something to do maybe in the earlier part of the race. Straight up, because of that, Bolt TBD will sweep the weekend. That is crazy. I didn't know Chaza had an unserved penalty. So he must have collected some kind of stop-go penalty somewhere that we didn't see. Crazy events. As Bolt TBD, because of that, will sweep the weekend, and Dougie Afroman will pick up a podium. As he still manages to take, regardless of his 6 seconds worth of penalties, will still outfinish Finaldo. So what a crazy outcome for the sprint race. Chaza had an unserved stop-and-go penalty. And so, regardless of Bolt picking up penalties himself, it turns out Chaza had the bigger one, as an unserved penalty will cost him dearly. But regardless, he still managed to stay in second place. As we're rounding out through the field once again, everyone coming down to finish their laps. Not many more battles going on, as that was the closest one, of course, we've had all race long. But what a fantastic outcome between these two. That was insane. Fun to watch, too. And then we were served with just an unsuspected, unfortunate event for Chaza. I did not realize, ladies and gentlemen, I did not realize that he had an unserved penalty. So somewhere along the line, he picked up a stop-and-go penalty that he did not serve, of course, and that will cost him the win of this one. So, wow. Very, very crazy. And so with that, Bolt TBD will, of course, stay. He will stay with the sweep again. He's collected multiple of these. We're going to skip through this once again. So here we go. With that, just by 2 seconds between the two with the penalties, Volt TBD manages to get the sweep here for the Russian Grand Prix for this one, with Chazza finishing second and Dougie with a podium. So that is fantastic points for ART, with of course Val not being able to attend for this one. So that is the one he said today he wanted to push so hard with Val not making it to the race today. So that will be very much appreciated for ART for his fantastic job. So with that being said, folks, I want to thank you all for joining me today. Once again, I do apologize for the internet interruptions today. I do have this saved, and I will be sharing this and, of course, sending this to Val for the upload for you guys to see and for him to post on the Twitter page as well. So, but with that being said, thank you so much, and thank you, Val, for letting me do this today with Niblo not being able to commentate. So, once again, guys, next weekend will be the final round of the Formula 2 Championship at Yas Marina. So, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next weekend at Yas Marina. Bye, everyone.